All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It's afternoon for me, so I'm saying good afternoon. It very well may be good morning for you or good evening for you, but for me, good afternoon. My name is Jason Myles, and I am here today to share with you some answers to some questions that I'm getting a lot recently. I'm getting a lot of questions about some things that are, pretty important. Some people would say basic, but they're not basic. They're important rules of thumb that one would need to understand. So we're going to get right back into it in just a second. And today we're going to talk about the 1%, 50%, and 70% rules. Be right back. All right, thank you for sitting through the intro. This is your man, Jason O. Myles. Thank you for being here. A little housekeeping before we go. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Like the video, comment, tell me what you like, what you don't like. Let's have a discussion, all right? If there's something that you want to hear specifically, I'm your man. Shoot me the information, shoot me the question, and I promise you I will make a video about it and I will shout you out in the meantime. But I want to get into it, okay? So let's get into this 1%, 50%, 70% rule, right? So what is that? What is the 1% rule, 50%, 70%? We're going to start with the 1%, right? So the 1% rule is all about rental properties, right? So the rule of thumb is, and it's a little bit dated. It's kind of, in a lot of markets, it just doesn't work. Some people are using a 2% rule, but the 1% rule states that 1%, I'm going to write this down, rental income rent should equal minimum 1% of what you paid. Okay? So the 1% rule, again, the 1% rule is stating that your rent should equal 1%. Oh, there should be a U in there. Excuse my chicken scratch. Rent should equal minimum of 1% of the price you paid for the house, okay? So if you paid $100,000 for the house, you should get at least $1,000 a month. 1% rule. If you paid $300,000 for the house, you should get $3,000 a month. That's just the rule of thumb. But as you know, rents have increased quite significantly, as well as prices. You just never really know. Well, there's always a way for you to gauge. If you bought a $700,000 house, no matter where you are, in the country, you're not going to be trying to get, $2,000 a month for it. You're going to get as much as you can possibly get. In fact, if you're in New York, you might buy $1 million brownstone and you separate the floors and you charge $3,500 a floor, $1,500 to $2,000 for the basement. So you can make sure that you get the money you want to get. It happens all the time. People are Airbnb right now trying to rent rooms out. We've got people that are doing high scale rentals where they're getting $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month for these massive houses. But those houses need to be well manicured and so on and so forth. But in short, that's your 1% rule. Whatever you pay for the property, you should get at least minimum 1% of what you pay in rent. Now, let's talk a little bit about the 50% rule, right? The 50% rule. Now, this is a little something different. Again, it's geared more towards people that have rental properties, single family more specifically. It doesn't really equate to multifamily and commercial, but really it depends on how much you paid for it. But generally speaking, we're going to talk about how this fits, how it plays with a single family rental property, Okay, even a duplex or a quad, it all fits. Okay, now the 50% rule states that 50% of the income generated will go towards expenses on an annualized basis, and the other 50% should stick with you. So the 50% rule is this. So your 50% rule is stating that 50% of all your annual dollars generated is going to go towards expenses. And then you should keep 50% of that, right? Now, there's different ways that this is calculated, and you'll see it from a number of different perspectives because it doesn't always quite play out that way. Again, to give you an example, if you paid $100,000 for a house and you're wanting, $100 or $1,000 a month for that rent, if that note was $600 a month plus which could be less. I mean, interest rates today are really low, but if you're doing non-owner occupant stuff, it's different. So I'm going to kind of stay in the middle of the road, okay? If you're paying $700 a month PITI, that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, right? There's that. You got to assume that you're only going to have a tenant for a year. You want to keep them longer. Tenant retention is a very important thing because it drops your expenses. But in the event that you don't have that person stay for longer than a year, you got to count 1 month, one of those months, as you just not getting any money at all. So you get about $11,000 a year in rents generated, right? Assuming you're not keeping the security deposit, you're getting about $11,000 a year. So half of that is what, $5,500? But you're paying more than that in your mortgage in this case. So, and it's going to cost you some money to turn that property. Turn means the cost, the time, of course, it takes you to have it vacant, to clean it, paint it, change the locks, whatever you have to fix in it after that person leaves. So that's called turning a unit. It's going to cost you, best case scenario, if they didn't do any real damage, a good cleaning service to go in there, maybe a little touch-up paint, things like that, maybe $400, $500, $600. But it's beyond the 50% that the rule states. So what are you going to do? What are your options in this particular situation? Your options in this situation are what? Raise the rents, right? Raise the rents. Maybe you go to $1,100 or $1,200 a month so that but the market is going to tell you what it can bear. But if it can bear it, you're going to work your numbers so that it's coming out to be 50% of all your dollars generated are basically staying in your pocket. Now that is absolutely where you want to be, and there's ways tax structurally that you can be there depending on the market you're in and depending on how you're going to depreciate the property, basically. Okay? So that's your 50% rule. Now let's get into the 70% rule. 70% rule has everything to do with your fix and flippers, right? It can also be a rule that is utilized by someone who wants to be a buy and hold person, right? It's about how you acquire the property. Now, I talk a lot about this, and it's not always the same all around the country. In some parts of the country, that 70% could be 80, 85, just because of how much real estate costs in certain places. And that's really looking for a deal in some of those places, right? So you've got people that are buying ready-made properties at 5 or 10% discount, but that's not the case today. People are getting all their money. Now we're seeing mortgage applications fall back, which means soon enough prices will follow. Interest rates for mortgages will go up, prices will come down. Not huge. I don't think it's going to be huge, but it is what it is. Now, for those that can find deals at that 70% mark, this is what the 70% rule states. The 70% rule states 70% is your all-in price, meaning if it's worth $100,000 after it's been repaired, you bought it and fixed it for $70,000, which is 70%. and then you either sold it or you rented that property out. Okay. Now, this is really good if you're buying like this and you are a landlord. This is really good because your 1% rule, even though it's based on what you pay for it, it's really about what the after repair value is. So if you take that 1% rule and apply it to the ARV, or the after repair value, as long as you paid that or less, you're making a lot of money. If you're, again, if we're using that $100,000, if you bought it for $70,000, bought it and fixed it for $70,000, and you know that the ARV is $100,000, you're going to get that $1,000 a month, which puts you well above the 1% rule. Now you're at like 1.3. You've got a lot of room in there now to kind of navigate through your profitability. And that's exactly where you want to be. That's exactly where you want to be. So again, I wanted to share this information because I have been getting a lot of questions about how to navigate your way through this existing economy, this housing market the way it is, and people not being able to find as many deals as they were finding before, the way they were finding them. I brag a lot about being very fortunate to be in the region, in the area that we're in, because we're finding, deals all the time, well below 70%, well below. I mean, we're all in at 65, 66, sometimes even less. But as the market changes, as it is now we're buying properties, we're all in at 75, maybe even 80% just to keep things going, okay? From a fix and flip or a buy and hold standpoint, to make sure that you can get the money that you want to get. So I want to again thank you guys for watching. Please like, share. If there's any question that you have about this, make sure you comment so I can get that question answered for you. Again, this is the 1%, 50%, 70% rule. They're not etched in stone. You can wiggle your way around them however you need to wiggle your way around them. These rules were generated at a time when values were a lot lower. Okay, so, but they still apply in most of the country. They still apply, so utilize them. And again, make sure that you like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what you think. This is your man, Jason Myles, and as always, I appreciate your time. Oh, and by the way, click the link below. Look in the description. There's a bunch of stuff down there. I got a free book for you. All you have to do is pay shipping and handling. There's free courses. There's just a lot of stuff down there. See what appeals to you. Take advantage of it. I'm your man, Jason Myles, and I'll see you next time. Peace.